Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Tonight, it's Pork 360. Joining us tonight, Attorney Lorna Kapunan of the Kapunan, Garcia, Castillo Law Offices, and Attorney Edward Chico, professor at the De La Salle University College of Law, also columnist of both Manila Standard and Manila Times, correct?
Yes.
Good evening. Attorney Kapunan, Attorney, thank you very much for joining us. Let's begin with this first, no? Today, the Ombudsman asks the Sandiganbayan kung pwede pang i-amyenda natin yung information, the criminal information that was filed to make Bong Revilla daw look not just like a beneficiary but a mastermind. Can the Ombudsman do that? And can the Sandiganbayan allow that?
You first.
Well, of course, as a general rule, prior to arraignment, then of course the Ombudsman can do that. But after arraignment, definitely it will require now the court's approval. Unless, of course, you talk about amendment as to forms. But in this particular case, you are essentially changing the nature of the offense because you would like now to make it appear that Bong Revilla is a mastermind and not just a passive beneficiary. Yun yung ang problema nga lang dyan, of course, it raises some suspicion on the part of the public. Why now? You know, after browsing through the voluminous records of the
because
case.
we're all under the impression that,
yes,
that it had been studied very well, lahat ng ebidensya,
the general rule is amendment is a matter of right. You can amend, provided that if the issues are joined. For instance, if it's a civil complaint, may answer na, you cannot amend the complaint. So you will have to go for leave of court. But
leave of court
meaning you have to ask permission of the court to amend your pleadings because the other side must be given opportunity to join issues with the amended complaint. But that becomes not merely a matter of procedure. In a criminal case, it affects substantive rights.
Right.
Because the right to be informed, the constitutional right, is one of the aspects of the rights of the accused is the right to be informed of the nature of the offense against you. Iba yung mastermind.
Oo. Kasi parang ang pagkakaiba nun yung beneficiary, tumanggap ka, ang mastermind, nangolekta ka.
That's correct. Iba yun. That's
Ibang-iba yun.
entirely, yes.
And you have to understand that Bong Revilla, of course, enjoys the presumption of innocence. So you have to understand that unless, of course, the court comes up with the verdict which becomes final and executory, Bong Revilla is entitled to such presumption of innocence. So I'm pretty sure, of course, his lawyers would vehemently oppose that.
So the problem with cases like this is it doesn't speak well. Right now, there is so much public interest in the case. And when after months and months of study, then almost overnight to change your theory midstream, di ba? It doesn't speak well of the government and whoever is in charge of this case, no? Because it feeds precisely the theory that this is a sign of vindictiveness against the opposition, rather than focus on three individuals. What's happening to the others?
Exactly, that's the point. So there's this tendency for the public to think that this is politically motivated. Kaya nga, I think
we'll get to that in a while.
That's why the Ombudsman, we will discuss that later. But the point is, you know, the Ombudsman should actually be careful because it has gone through the records
should be careful, meaning
for a long
each
time.
and every little thing they do.
Yes, exactly.
Is
Exactly, because more than a
no?
court proceeding, this is something which the public are very much interested in. So anything that they do definitely would have an impact insofar as the perception of the public is concerned.
Yeah, okay. Attorney Kapunan, I just wanted to get this out of the way first. Of course, you were a lawyer for Janet Limnopolis for her illegal detention case only, and not for the pork barrel cases. And you wouldn't have taken this case, right?
The pork barrel case? In both instances, both in the serious illegal detention case and possibly then the pork barrel case. One of the conditions really, and I think any lawyer will require that of a client, is absolute disclosure.
For the client to tell the whole truth,
Yes,
right?
but
Is how
at some point in time, we felt that that wasn't happening. So, it is the type of case that I would have loved to accept.
Really? Why?
Because she whose name cannot be mentioned, client, had a unique position, she had a unique position in history, where if she did what was expected, that would have been a tipping point.
What
for
was
a lot of
expected?
things.
For her to tell the whole truth?
Yes, which was why we surrendered her in Malacanang to Malacanang in the first place. Her desire to enlighten everybody as to what really transpired.
That is why you brought her to Malacanang, because yun ang sinabi niya, right?
No,
that she was willing to tell the truth
we brought her
already.
to Malacanang because of a 10 million peso reward, which was literally a shoot-to-kill order. Anybody who is offered, her driver, her security guards could be tempted by a 10 million and the 10 million reward. And the only person who could protect her, in our view, was the president then.
Okay, but at that point, was she already willing to tell the truth?
Yes.
Oh yeah, she was.
Yes.
Okay, and then
Well,
at
that
what
was
point?
her representation.
Okay, and then at what point did you feel that she wasn't really keeping her part of the bargain after that surrender? Now?
Well, without betraying confidence, it was at some point during the trial of the serious illegal kidnapping case where there was a serious departure from what we had agreed on our trial technique, because we felt that the government was presenting on the motion for bail a full-blown litigation on the merits. So we said, if they're presenting 13 witnesses or 10 witnesses, why don't we present our whole story? And they had brought in other lawyers and who said, no, this will be short and we will present one. And I said, that's a sure formula for not being granted bail. And fast forward to now, it turns out we were correct.
Yeah, all right. Let's go back to that Malacanang, the night of the Malacanang surrender. Did you know about the letter that she had written to the president earlier?
No.
Oh, okay. But, so you didn't know whether she had given the president that letter, or, I'm sorry, that she had given the president a list that night. Did you know that she was going to give the president a list?
No.
Did she-
We didn't know a lot of things. In fact, I got a sense that she was on a need-to-know mode.
She was on a need-to-know mode.
She
Okay.
was with her lawyers, her advisors. She would tell us some things that we needed to know for the kidnapping, but that was on a need-to-know.
Ah, okay.
So,
I need to know basis for you. Na
for
parang,
us.
I'll tell you this only because you need to know this, but I won't tell you everything else.
That's the sense that I got.
Ah, okay.
Looking back, that's the sense that I got, because we would be surprised with the rest of the world as certain facts disclosed themselves in media and all that. We would learn together with the rest of the world.
Okay. But did you find it strange that the president would be willing to meet with Mrs. Napoles, or willing to meet with her or accept her surrender?
No,
No.
I think treat Mrs. Napoles as an ordinary citizen who is in danger of being killed. If anybody went, besides, this is a president who says, kayo ang boss ko. Diba? As a matter of fact, I would say now that we had also thought of surrendering to the Cardinal.
Cardinal Tagle.
To Cardinal Tagle, but it didn't happen principally because separation of church and state. There were concerns being expressed that he was probably not the appropriate person. But had he accepted, that would have been, in a sense, to me, that would have been a confession to end all confessions and have ended the case then.
You think she should have gone to confession?
Yes.
To the cardinal, not to you. Although
To the
she should have
cardinal,
gone to confession first to you as the lawyer, no? But were you in the room when President Aquino and her spoke, or did they speak at all, or was it
was
in
very
front
public.
of everybody?
It was very
sa inyo,
public.
sa
Everybody
harap
was
ninyo
there. It
lahat.
just
Okay.
happened. It was really a confluence of events.
Okay.
And the stories that they said that she had a secret meeting in the morning with
That she
certain
had gone
people in
earlier.
Malacanang
Oh,
is
no.
absolutely false.
Yeah, oo.
Everything
But, yeah,
happened.
but when you went with her that night to Malacanang,
That's why I'm
sa
saying
harap,
that
yeah.
that day, it just happened that everybody was there because that was the day when the president's visit to China was canceled by the Chinese government. Apparently, he was going on some, it was not even an official visit. So the generals were there, the cabinet secretaries were there. And then I had a phone call to La Sierra. So it happened within 2-3 hours.
Okay. And the president and her spoke to each other in front of everybody else, and there was no, you didn't see her hand anything to him, any
As a matter of
stamp,
fact, she
papel,
was,
etc.
I tend to believe that she probably didn't know the president personally. That's my personal opinion because she was so starstruck upon seeing the president and upon being there in the palace and all of those comfortable chairs and all that. So,
Okay.
gave me the sense na
Hindi
hindi
niya
sila
kilala.
magkakilala.
Na hindi sila magkakilala.
Yes.
Even when the president first
Yes,
saw her.
yes.
Okay. Let's go to that point. You already raised him politically motivated. No? So is all this politically motivated? When I say politically motivated, let's talk first about yung 2016. Kasi yun ang isang line of defense, diba? Tina Bong Revilla and Jinggoy Estrada, that because Bong Revilla could be running for president, because Jinggoy Estrada could be running for VP. 2016 politics.
It's a defense. It's that it is politically motivated, that it is forgery, that recently we were hearing this morning that it was not PDAF, it was pala a loan or something. These are all defenses that should be presented in the appropriate forum.
Ako naman personally, I couldn't care less about the sentiment, of course, of Senator Revilla and Senator Jinggoy Estrada, that it is politically motivated. What I'm simply saying is that the public might have that perception.
Yeah.
Because I sincerely feel that the president has this unique opportunity to effect change. This is an opportunity for him to show that he can actually push for reforms. But the problem is, it seems to us, that the government is basically zeroing in on the opponents. And that would not be positive. But just because it's politically motivated, of course, does not necessarily mean that Jinggoy Estrada, Bong Revilla, and even to a certain extent, Senator Enrile should not be prosecuted.
Yeah.
If indeed they are guilty and if there are pieces of evidence that could essentially point to their culpabilities, then definitely
they should be prosecuted.
I agree. Totally agree with you because at the same time the names of the 3 senators came out, so did the names of certain cabinet members, so did the names of the certain USECs and certain people close to the president. Why was the palace so quick to say, I have great confidence in these people? And on the flip side of that, say, in terms of those who are not close to the palace, say that let justice take its course, no? Why? It makes you wonder why two separate statements.
Actually, I hate to say this, but I was actually intently watching the Senate proceedings. And if I'm not mistaken, even initially, I'm pretty sure Attorney Lorna Kapunan here will agree with me, even initially some names have already been mentioned. And if I may say, if I'm not mistaken, even the name of Senator Soto, Senator Ligarda, even initially, they were mentioned.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it makes you wonder why. They will just focus on these individuals who are currently being prosecuted for said anomalies.
Yeah. Attorney Ed, in your March 24, 2014 column in the Manila Times, you said, and I quote, everything in this country is politically motivated. Tell us what you had in mind when you wrote that. After this break, we'll just take a short break. News.PH will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH. I'm Pia Hontiveros. We're talking about Port 360. Still with us, Attorney Lorna Kapunan and Attorney Ed Chico. Attorney Ed, your column, March 24, 2014, Manila Times, you said everything in this country is politically motivated. What did you mean?
Well, to begin with, I think I'm telling the truth. And that's what I sincerely feel about this issue. Not just about this issue, but all political issues that are confronting us. Remember during the time of GMA, they even went to the extent of, if I really would say this, blatantly disregarding the rule of law just to have their way. And they actually prosecuted a lot of people who apparently are against them. And now Pinoy took over as president, and I was actually hoping that he would push for reforms as he promised. But at the end of the day, if you look at the things that are happening now, it's the same thing in the guise, of course, of upholding the law, in the guise of prosecuting people who have committed wrongdoings. Pinoy would like to make it appear that he is doing the right thing. But at the end of the day, look at the people being persecuted here.
That's what you say in the
Yes,
third
exactly.
paragraph, no? If the incumbent administration files cases of corruption, it does so not to clean up the system, etc., but simply to crush its enemies.
Yes,
What are you saying?
exactly.
Hindi totoo yung daang matuwid? You don't believe in it?
Well, to begin with, if I may say sa Tagalog, ang tunay naman na daan, hindi naman tuwid eh. Kadalasan, particular sa ating sitwasyon, ang daan sa tingin ko sa kaunlaran, kung magkaminsan ay liku-liko. So it's just a matter of learning how to maneuver your way.
Yeah.
And because at the end of the day, if you always feel na ang daan ay ganoon katuwid, minsan nakakatakot yun, papaano kung kailangan lumiko. Of course, I'm just trying to stress a point there. But at the end of the day, look at what has been happening. And I really hope that Pinoy should do the right thing this time. I mean, given the fact that the public apparently is clamoring for filing cases also against those who belong to the administration. And it's about time, I think, he allows the government to conduct a full-blown investigation, not only against the opposition, but even against those people who are perceived to be supportive
Why do you say
of
that
his presidency.
you hope he will allow?
Well, of course, at the end of the day, you have to understand the ombudsman definitely is a constitutional body and it is supposedly independent from the president. But in practice, we all realize that the chief executive definitely has a say about that. That basically is what Philippine politics is. And we have to accept that. And I hope the president should do the right thing. I really hope he does.
Isn't he doing the right thing yet? Attorney
No, to
Lorna?
me, just to segue in from what he said, no, to me, what is disturbing really is there's too much tuwid na daan. And you ask yourself, tuwid na daan, tungo saan? Because, you know, our gut issues, we have so many gut issues like poverty, like, I mean, criminality. I mean, you go out in the street here in Quezon City, Jesus Christ, you're not sure whether you lose a tire in your car or, you know. So there's so many gut issues that you feel that, in fact, I have met several sectors from, if I may say, from the church, military, businessmen, who are now ready to say there is absolute failure of government.
Really?
Failure of government is where you have 2/3 of your legislative. Congress, about 2/3 of them, 200 will be charged. In the Senate, as it's turning out, almost 90% are being charged or will be eventually charged. You have key cabinet secretaries who are non-performers. If you are to take the public pulse, I mean, what else do we have? You still have hoodlums in robes. This thing about corruption in the judiciary still remains. While there were initial efforts of the Supreme Court to call all practitioners to a summit, they canceled. It never happened. We were so prepared, practitioners, legal practitioners, to name names. We were never called again. So people are saying is this probably should bring back days of Cory Aquino, where people power, and we cannot count on people power now, people power catapulted her as a transition president. We do have a prototype for that, which is the Freedom Constitution, which allowed her to ask for the resignations of all the branches of government. Justices were giving their congressmen, etc., and the executive department. She accepted all the resignations and then she appointed. The problem with that, though, is she forgot that she was only transition, that the blueprint, if there was any, was for her to call clean, honest, orderly, credible elections within 6 months. But she completed the full term, and so those who were around her also went into the same corruption syndrome Because if there is power, then there is greed. If there is greed, then there is, again, abuse of public funds. So, but I'm saying now, if we have indeed, if this president indeed has political will and wants to clean up once and for all, we cannot wait for 3 more presidencies, because they say that to get rid of corruption, that child hasn't been born yet who doesn't know corruption. You're talking 3 more presidencies to be able to rid ourselves of corruption. Why wait for that? If you declare a failure of government and just ask for everybody's resignation, will the government run? Yes, because you have a bureaucracy, the system, you have career people, you have a PMS, which really is a skeleton. The PMS can run this country. The PMS is a duplication of everything that these appointive positions do. So then he calls for elections. Because the people naman are saying is, malapit na yung elections, because the filing of the certificate of candidacy is already next year.
Right, November 2015.
And who is going to, sino ang magiging sino ang magiging presidente? Sino ang magiging presidente? Yung hindi matuwid? Or yung hindi marunong? We're going back to that same syndrome. We're so kawawa naman. But if we declare failure of government, then we can have good people running in a clean elections. You, for instance, you should run.
Oh, you're talking to the wrong sister.
You should run.
No.
Actually,
You should
that's
now run.
what Atty. Kapunan
good
said
people
is
should
too much
run.
information for me to process right now.
But
I
that's
see
the way
her
to
point.
go.
Yeah, I see her point.
No,
But-
wait. When you say that people want, let's declare
Tama
failure of
na,
government,
because-
are you saying people aren't happy with, look, you have 2 senators behind bars and another one coming soon, and
Yeah, but here's the point kasi, Pia.
What is this token?
token, this is token pa lang?
2 senators is token.
No, but here's an interesting point kasi. If you look at the developments now, it seems to us that the government again is ganging up on the opposition, and it's not good because it becomes a vicious cycle at the end of the day. I just have an interesting point.
Yeah.
What if, for example, Vice President Binay would win the presidency in 2016? And we know for a fact that Senator Revilla, Senator Joygo Estrada, and even Senator Enrile are at the very least.
Allied.
Kaibigan
Yes,
sila.
exactly.
So you had the
So
three
what
hundred.
Mapapardon
that's
na
exactly
naman.
what would happen now.
Okay.
And then if President Binay is vindictive, then he would now begin. Now, since the tide changes, so to speak, so
He would
the
now
new
begin to
president
what?
now will go against those
Yung mga-
people who
yung
are
mga
currently
tumira sa
sympathetic now to President Pinoy. So that's exactly my point here. So that's why Pinoy should really do the right thing this time. If there are allegations against certain people, whether they belong to the opposition or they belong to the administration, it doesn't matter. What the president should do is allow the appropriate government agencies to conduct the necessary investigation. If there are pieces of evidence that would warrant filing of cases against these people, then he should allow that.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we cannot allow a president.
In fact, all lawyers, the legal profession, the lawyers have already weighed in through the integrated bar of the Philippines, where our president has made an official position saying, wag naman selective justice, because we who are in the legal profession are seeing it unfold before our eyes. Hindi ba?
Ang problema kasi niyan,
yung proseso
exactly.
parang
It sets a dangerous precedent eh.
Yeah.
You are
but
prosecuting
you know,
people not to
Malacanang-
effect change.
But Malacanang denies all of that.
Of course, they
no,
would-
this is not
of course
selective
they would deny
justice. We
that.
are going after everybody.
Yes,
etc.
they would deny that. Pero sa bandang huli, dapat isipin mo, hindi naman tanga ang taong bayan. Marunong mag-isip ang taong bayan. And they know that they can tell. So that's why I sincerely feel that Pinoy should do the right thing. I've always been emphasizing on that phrase, right thing. Because right now, I hate what has been happening. He is given this unique opportunity kasi eh. As I said, it becomes a vicious cycle. So we really couldn't effect change because you only prosecute people just to guarantee that these people who are against us would not be elected, for example,
Will
in
not
the
win.
next coming elections.
Okay.
And that's a bad thing.
the operative word is really credible. The whole process.
Credible prosecution.
The whole
the
process
case, no,
must
everything.
itself be credible. Hindi pwede yung on whim the ombudsman will say we need to amend to make him the
Exactly.
mastermind, or even before the NBI finishes its investigation, a cabinet secretary or secretary of an agency already is ruled out as being not guilty. Forgery is ruled merong dinismiss na kaso na hindi pa tapos sinabi na wala na forgery yun, no? Why will it be forgery for some and not forgery
for others?
For others,
Yeah.
di ba?
Okay. Does the prosecution have an airtight case? No, because
My answer there-
we can all huff and puff, no? And then tapos pag hindi pala maganda yung kaso.
Yeah, my answer
paano
there
ba
is,
yan?
it's the system. It's the system which requires that if you convict, there must be proof beyond reasonable doubt. What's happening now is, hindi ba, Ed? Tatlong listahan nila or apat ang listahan nila. If you're talking about who should be put to jail or who should be shot in Luneta, you're really talking about 4 lists. A Baligod list, a Benher list,
A Napolis list.
a Napolis list, an inquirer list, and a corrupted NBI list. That's 4.
And the list goes on and on.
Yeah, but the list is not evidence, hindi
But
ba?
ganito yung Pia, ultimately,
Precisely. You know, the only one who can assure conviction
Yes.
is Napoles. Because all the whistleblowers, if you analyze the evidence, and I'm not breaching
yeah, exactly.
confidentiality, but any lawyer who analyzes the evidence, you will see that the testimony of the whistleblowers end up with kinuha namin ng pera sa bangko at binigay namin kay Mrs. Napoles. The next question is, kanino niya binigay? O, kanino mo binigay? Sa Mrs. Napoles, kanino niya binigay? They cannot answer. No one can answer kanino binigay ang pera. Nobody. The only one who can answer,
Yeah.
and the only...
But why is she going to admit that she committed the crime? Because she will go to jail and not the others. Hindi ba?
Precisely.
I mean-
There is reason. The government must rethink its position in not making her a state witness. Because her testimony is crucial to the conviction of people who are charged.
Okay, one sentence and we go to a break.
ultimately, we have to abide by the rule of law. Whatever happens,
Yeah.
whether or not Napolis should be a state witness, can be answered if, for example, she
By the
complies with
courts.
the requisites
Correct.
for being a state witness. Even if her position is crucial, if at the end of the day she's not qualified, so why should we make her a state witness?
All right, we'll have to take a short break. News.PH will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Pork 360, that's what we're talking about tonight. Attorney Lorna Kapunan and Attorney Chico are with us tonight. We're talking now, we're going to move into DAP, no, the Disbursement Acceleration Program. Are you eagerly awaiting, or eagerly is an understatement, are you eagerly awaiting the Supreme Court decision on DAP?
Yeah, it's like beyond the 9-month pregnancy already. So this is going to be an elephant already when it comes out.
Ako lang, sa akin lang it's very difficult actually to predict what the decision would be. For example, let us talk about PDAF. Not many people know that as early as 1992, the issue on PDAF was already raised before the Supreme Court. In fact, prior to the November 13 decision, let me just finish this.
Yeah.
There were 2 petitions filed before the Supreme Court questioning the constitutionality of pork barrel, and it was known then as the Countrywide
CDF,
Development
yes,
Fund.
yes.
And in both petitions,
So nagre-replay tayo.
and in both petitions, the Supreme Court emphatically, and I would like to emphasize on the word emphatically, stated that pork barrel or Countrywide Development Fund is constitutional. Because according to the Supreme Court, the congressmen, the senators would be in a position to monitor, assess, review, and determine the needs of their respective constituents.
Okay.
So kung sila ang may hawak ng pera, mas maganda at alam nila kung saan pupunta, and they could guarantee at the end of the day that they would be for delivery of basic services. But the problem is with the Napolis controversy exacerbated by allegations against the
corruption,
3
etc.
senators and against
Yeah.
some of the congressmen, the Supreme Court had a change of heart. In the 2013 decision, they now said PDAF and even Countrywide Development Fund is unconstitutional.
Kasi pinalitan pa pangalan. Anyway, okay. You know,
But
let's talk.
Pia, I think
Yes.
we should put this in context because there's so much brouhaha over this PDAF. Let's say, first they say it's 10 billion Napoles related, and of course there is the Malampaya funds. But you're talking only of about a couple of 100 millions. Let's talk about what to me is a very alarming figure of 1 trillion. 1 trillion referred to a special projects fund, which nobody knows about. That is being controlled by the executive department, by the president. Also, what about this this DAP? That's
Yeah, exactly.
143 billion. Plus, let's talk about PAGCOR funds. Let's talk about the sweepstakes. Let's talk about the road tax. Let's talk about all of these revenues that go into the executive branch that appears not to have been accounted for.
Exactly.
And yet, you're talking about us lawyers and the BIR coming after us for the much-needed funds to raise revenue for the government. There is no accountability. If there is accountability, if we are exacting accountability for PDAF, let's do that as well for other funds.
For all these other funds, yeah.
For all
Okay.
these other funds.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that first. But before we do, let's bring in Mahar Mangahas, SW of the Social Weather Stations. Good evening, Dr. Mangahas. Thank you very much for joining
Hi,
us.
Mahar.
Yeah, good evening. Hello, Lorna.
Yeah.
Hi.
Sir, we asked to speak to you on the phone because, well, of course, as you well know and as many others already know, Bobby Tiglao in his newspaper column had said that you had boasted in your e-groups of your schoolmates that you had seen the decision of the Supreme Court or a draft decision of the Supreme Court on DAP, no? And then you corrected yourself and then you said that you had, what you were quoting was the PDAF decision. Can you tell us first what happened, sir?
Well, just today, we've issued a media release. I hope you got it. We emailed a copy to you. That what I was talking about was PDAF, not DAP, because I have no way to know what's coming up in DAP.
Okay. Yeah,
So I
okay.
have no way to comment
Yes.
about...
So yeah. In other words, you're saying it is not true that you are the only person in this country to have seen the draft
It's an
decision.
outline. And you know what? What I also state there is that he tried to check it with me the day before. And I told him it was a mistake. And I already took it back to my e-group. And then he claims that I recanted, that I was boasting. I was not boasting. To me, the PDAF is something that's online. Anybody can get it.
Okay.
Of course, if I have the new one, that's a boast. But why should I have the new one? No
Yeah,
one, none of you have the new one. Ako pa.
And you wouldn't make them if you did have if you did have the draft decision on DAP, you wouldn't make the mistake of talking about it on
No,
on the
I
internet, right?
not.
So, Mahar, is it unconstitutional?
I would not. That's why. And you see, this to me is the ridiculous thing. Sinabi ko na nagkamali ako. Hindi
Okay.
yun. Pagkatapos, pinipilit pa rin niya.
Okay. So it was an
And then,
okay.
then
So it was an
another
honest
matter.
so it was an honest mistake, sir.
Yeah,
And
yeah. But I
You
want to
say
point out
it's
something
malicious.
more.
Yeah.
May I point out something more?
yes.
Why on earth should I be given an advanced copy of the PDAF ruling? Now, ito ang conspiracy niya. Kasi daw, kuno, the Supreme Court is asking me to do a poll for them. You see, that's
Okay.
fantastic.
Hey, pero hindi Malacanang, no?
Well, sabi niya Supreme Court. Sabi niya, I don't know. But so he wants to ask me, meron bang nagpapagawa ng survey sa inyo dyan? So to me, that's a trick question. Di ba? Yung mga ganong klaseng confidential things, you cannot say yes or no. And it's, at
You
the
cannot
time,
confirm.
Unethical.
Yeah.
It's
Sir,
unethical to ask me a question about a confidential matter.
No, it's
So
sir, it is unethical for you to answer, but it's not unethical for people to ask you. So wait, let me ask you.
Yes,
So
yes,
have you been? Yeah, sir, Dr. Mangas, has SWS been asked to do a survey on people's sentiments about DAP?
people's sentiment about that?
Yes.
Well, that's again, if it's for a commission for a project, I could not say.
You cannot-
Actually, we ourselves will do something when the time comes. Of
Yeah.
course, we will do that.
In your
But we
regular
cannot
survey.
talk- yes, but
You
we
will-
cannot talk about confidential work.
Okay, parang neither confirm nor deny. NCND.
Yeah, syempre,
Yeah.
That's, you don't ask people to do unethical, to make unethical answers. So,
Yeah, okay.
like, you're trying to trap me.
I am? Okay,
Well,
but
that's
wait,
what I
sir,
figure.
oo,
I
Dr.
cannot put
Mangahas,
you-
so,
Yeah.
just to lay this to
Fine.
rest, no? So, itong pagsabi nyo na, ito yung decision, it was really just an honest mistake and
Yeah.
nothing else, and
Yeah.
this, we're just, parang we have just realized that Mahar Mangahas is human, no? Na nagkamali lang kayo. Okay.
Yeah, that's all. And I corrected it right away to my e-group.
Okay, but of
Right
course,
away.
yeah, but many of them did not believe you daw.
Well, that's what he says. So may mga, awan ko, these
Oo.
people, and the thing is that hindi naman umaamin kung sino sila, mga duwag sila. I don't care.
Yeah,
Nobody
okay.
has to believe me.
Yeah.
I know what I know.
Oo.
How do
But-
they know better than me?
Yeah, but I'm sure, sir, you do realize that if you had been able to see a draft of the decision, then they'll
Yeah.
crucify you, right?
Well, then of course, wow, ang galing-galing ko, meron ako, wala kayo. How could that be?
Okay, okay. But
yeah. So I have no reason to get one, right? And moreover, what does that say about the Supreme Court? Why should they leak? No? Or why should anybody leak it?
yeah, okay. You said a while ago that you will be asking questions about DAP in your
When the time
regular
comes.
survey. Sorry,
Yeah.
sir?
No, when the time comes. For example, we asked about PDAF after the PDAF decision. So we found out that people like the Supreme Court's ruling on PDAF.
Okay.
So when the DAP decision comes about after that, then we will likewise have to do something similar.
What do you
And
think?
we will compare.
Yeah. And what do you think the answer will be, sir? Never mind, trick question.
Well, my general feeling is that the people have confidence in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court seems to be acting against corruption, and the Supreme Court acted that way against PDAF, and they approved of it. Well, unless they can see some big difference in the next time, well, my first expectation will be it will be the same again. The
Okay.
Supreme Court will be, ratified, whatever they do. Because after all, it's very technical, and the people will just express their confidence.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Mangas, for joining us.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and if you do get an advance copy, just email it na lang po. Thank you very much. Salamat po, sir.
You will get yours before me.
I'll send you one. Okay.
Mahar.
Mag-e-groups nga tayo. Okay, para sa draft decision from Dr. Mahar Mangas. Thank you, sir, for joining us. We'll have to take a
okay.
short break first. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching News.PH. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Still with us, Attorney Lorna Kapunan and Attorney Chico. Joining us also is Attorney Elaine, spokesperson of the Bureau of Immigrations. But before we move into that, whole departure orders, etc., watch lists, etc., I wanted to ask first about Attorney Ed and Attorney Lorna. How do you think the Supreme Court justices will decide? After all, ayaw nila siguro makorona, right?
Well, sabi ko nga mahirap isipin kung ano maging desisyon ng Korte Suprema. But this is just my own opinion as a lawyer. You have to understand that the President has fiscal autonomy. So meaning, if there are savings, then the President could exercise discretion as regards how those savings should be used.
Savings?
Yes, but
hindi yung funds that had already been appropriated for certain projects.
No, I'm talking about savings kasi yung DAP kasi comes from alleged savings. Now, kung paano nakaka-savings, that's another issue that I'd like to talk about in another siguro in another episode. But let me just point this out. The President has fiscal autonomy, but the savings should be used within the executive branch. The problem kasi with DAP is this, hindi ba? Apparently, the funds coming from the executive were transferred
To the
to the Senate, to the
Yes,
legislative. Apparently, of course, to bribe the senators to vote against,
Hindi
for
naman
the
daw-
impeachment
hindi naman daw bribe,
of
Congressman.
Corona. I mean, let's be honest about that. I mean, let's call a spade here. But at the end of the day, that seems to be the problem there. So it seems to me that it violates the separation of powers. You have to understand that the president cannot just do that. Dalin mo yung pera ng ehekutibo sa legislative na hindi naman saklaw ng tinatawag na fiscal na autonomya na
Okay.
na-enjoy ng
More than
Pangulo.
that, it's not only it should be limited to the executive branch, no. Savings within the executive branch. It should be limited to the specific government agency.
Exactly.
Kung may savings, kunyari, may savings whatever.
Department of Environment,
Okay.
Natural Resources.
Yung
Sila
savings
lang.
nun, augmentation yun, para sa
Sarili
the same
nila.
project of that same agency. That is how limited the discretion of the executive
Yeah.
branch
Okay,
is.
okay.
Ay, last
We
na
don't-
lang, mabilis lang.
Talaga,
No,
one sentence.
I'd like to point this out kasi during the last oral argument, the Solicitor General and the representatives, yes, exactly, they were all saying that the issue now has become moot and academic
Because it had been
they've already
abolished.
abolished the DAP. But let me just point out that just because it is abolished does not necessarily mean
That
that
it
the
doesn't
Supreme
make
Court cannot make a ruling on that.
Okay.
So hindi pwede yun.
But what do you think, what do you think will the ruling be?
Unconstitutional.
Unconstitutional.
If you ask me,
Attorney
it
Ed.
should be unconstitutional.
It should be unconstitutional. Does it matter to the justices who the appointing power is? You know, there are 4 of them appointed by President Aquino right now: Sereno, Leonen, Bernabe, and Reyes. Does it matter?
No.
Will it matter? Will it even?
I don't think it should matter. They have security of tenure.
Yeah, well, it shouldn't. But you
It
know,
shouldn't.
but when I say that everything is politically motivated, I think you know my answer now.
I will not say that of the Supreme Court. Baka
But definitely, they would-
ma-disbar na naman ako. 4 na yung disbarment charges
I'm
ko.
pretty sure they
Sa
would do what is
kaka-interview
right.
niya sa media.
No, but I'm pretty sure they would do what is right.
I am confident in
yes,
this
I am
Supreme Court.
particularly in the new Chief Justice who has been introducing reforms.
Okay, but do you think it matters to them that they're also careful about how they will make decisions? I mean, we should all be, diba? They should be, because after all, there are more ways than one to leave the court, diba?
Exactly.
Apart from
That's
retirement, you can also be impeached.
I know.
Yeah, the same DAP funds can be used a la Corona style.
Okay.
Pwede.
Okay. If the court rules DAP is unconstitutional, as you were saying, well, you said they should, and you said dapat unconstitutional.
The problem
Anong
there is,
implications ito?
paano yung restitution? Kasi itong PDAF na to, yung mga nagnakaw ng PDAF, part of that is ibalik ang ninakaw mo sa taong bayan. Eh yung DAP na yan, anong gagawin? Dapat meron rin gano'n, ibalik mo.
Yeah, but interestingly,
Sa taong bayan.
Interestingly, in the PDAF case, the Supreme Court even encouraged the appropriate agencies to file cases against those who stole money from PDAF. And of course, I would be elated if the Supreme Court would come up with, you know, the same. I mean, if the decision would have the same import, that would be nice.
But would that also spell trouble for the administration if unconstitutional? Even if, like you said, no, Hardalesa was arguing on that ground.
In fact, there is a legal position that supports the view that even if declared unconstitutional, it should have prospective effect. In other words, yung nabigay na, wag mo nang
habulin.
wag mo nang
Wag mo nang
habulin.
problemahin.
Kalimutan na lang natin.
Basta in the future, don't do it again. Otherwise, 50 push-ups ka na naman, di ba? Ganun lang.
But even if you do away with discretionary funds, I'm pretty sure there are other ways they can think of in order to, you know, use the same kind of
Kanina
funds.
sabi niya dapat unconstitutional. So, okay lang sa inyo kung unconstitutional, but prospective. No, it has to be retroactive.
Yes, if it's unconstitutional, it is void, and therefore, the legal consequence there is solid.
Okay, and Ed, I guess you would say the same
Yes.
thing, right? Okay, let's talk first about immigration matters, whole departure order watch list. TRC head Antonio Ortiz and Renato Ornopia had, as your boss had announced, had already left the country.
Yes, according to our records, they have left the country before the issuance of the HDO by the Sandiganbayan.
Mr. Ortiz left on September 2013.
Oh, we don't have that information
Oh,
yet.
okay. But are you able to track if they did come back? Are they back?
Oh, we
or not?
haven't checked that also, but we only checked last week, so there's no update yet from our airports.
Oh, okay. How long does it take to check if they're back?
Now, usually, if these persons are in the whole departure, they won't be allowed to go out.
Yeah, no, but for these two who've already left, and can we check kung
Yes,
nakabalik
we can
na or-
check, but yeah, we haven't done that yet.
Oh, okay. Sana you can do it na. Parang ganon. Okay. What about
Constitutional ba yun? Pati yung-
HDO?
Oo, constitutional ba yun? Yung whole departure order na yan.
As far as the viewer is concerned, we're
You
just
just
complying with the directives of the court.
I think there's no problem with that for as long as it is the court that issues the
Yeah,
same.
it is the court. Because
It's a court.
remember yung inassail ng...
Problema
Yung
kasi
when if it's
yung,
a- if
yung
it's a
kay
justice
Secretary de
secretary.
Lima, hindi ba?
Oo.
It doesn't find
Effectively,
support in law That's the problem.
Effectively, nag-i-issue ng watch
Oo,
list.
but-
Pero yung watch list nila,
Yeah, but the watch list should not prevent the person from leaving the country.
Yeah,
Parang
yes.
caveat lang yon issued to the
except that when
to the
they implement,
immigration.
when the immigration
Ayun lang, ang
implements,
problema
parang
as implemented.
effectively nagiging whole departure.
Exactly,
order.
and I get it violates the right of the constitutional right of the person.
I must
Because he
say,
can travel to
when,
any place he wants to.
when nag-watch list si Mrs. Napoles, she felt so aggrieved because even if it were a watch list, her face was as big as a cartolina. I mean, it's like why? It's like she was a convicted felon. You don't even do that of drug lords who are convicted, na nasa ibang bansa na nawa-watch list dito. But she had Pascal, her face, it was so big. That's why our sense then was, is somebody spinning this story? Is somebody orchestrating this, putting the attention solely on her, no?
Elaine, you want to answer
Yeah,
that?
just to clarify, the order issued against Ms. Napoles before the HDO was an immigration lookout bulletin order. So it's not exactly a watch list.
Immigration
It is
lookout
a-
bulletin, meaning if you see her, what are you going to do?
You
Prevent her from leaving the
coordinate
Coordinate.
with the
What
National
is the
Coordinate,
meaning
but in the
coordinate
meantime,
here?
hold her.
We call the National Prosecution Service and the
No, but did you
DOJ.
check your airports? All the airports had her face as big as one big cartolina.
And I just have an interesting point. What if the DOJ tells you, wag niyo siyang paalisin? What would the immigration do now?
Even if a case had not yet been filed
Exactly,
against.
and there's no whole departure order issued against her.
We would just not allow, maybe we will comply with the directive of the DOJ because that's what's...
But despite the fact that the rules of court would only allow issuance of whole departure orders as the very thing that could prevent a person from leaving.
Yes, I believe DOJ won't say that the person shouldn't be allowed to leave unless they have basis. So they should have something to support their
No,
instructions.
it is nga a pending case. It is not a conviction yet, no?
Anyway, Attorney Elaine,
Oh my God.
can you tell us,
I-stress ako dyan.
Okay,
Attorney Elaine, tell me,
ma'am.
itong tracker, no? You have this so-called tracker system. How does it work?
The CQSS, our database.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's being used to check the records of the persons who have traveled.
Oh, to strange lang, was it Immigration Commissioner Fred Mison who was saying, nahihirapan daw immigrations kasi daw hindi daw complete names ang binigay, walang middle name.
Because the information provided by the Sandiganbayan were just the names, no other records. So if the person has someone with a similar name, or if his passport is not the same as the name given by the Sandiganbayan, then we will have difficulty tracing the person.
But ever since the HDOs were issued,
They haven't
no one on the HDO list has been able to leave the country.
Yes.
At least not through airports and
Yes,
seaports.
not those who will have the names listed in the HDO.
Okay. Should there be bail, Attorney Kapunan,
Yes.
for all of them?
Well, by law, pag plunder, non-bailable. But you should, you can file a case in court or a motion in court for issuance of bail. No?
And would they get it? I
Malversation
mean,
kasi,
oo.
malversation, hindi naman, bailable pa rin yan.
But for Bong Revilla, Jingoy Estrada, and
Well,
JP also,
As a matter
no,
of fact, not
motion
only
for
should
bail.
there should already be, under the plunder law, there should already be suspension. Because precisely, in our plunder laws have been amended to include suspension, preventive suspension, so that if you are a public official, I mean, for the sake of example, just for the sake of example, you're in the DBM, and we know who is in the DBM. if you are still in that position, you are in a situation where you can make papers disappear, di ba? Because you have control of the documents, and that is why public officials should be suspended already. Kagaya ng Senado, you can terrify, you can coerce your employees or the people who are under you to testify in your favor, precisely because of your position of power.
Attorney Ed, should there be
Siguro
bail?
clarify lang natin, bail is a matter of right. But if the offense is punishable by reclusion perpetua or death, and I think plunder
Yes.
falls under
Yes.
that category, then you are not supposed to be allowed to go out. And the only way you can file bail is if you will file a petition in court showing that the pieces of evidence against you are not strong. And that's a tall order under the circumstances.
So you shift
If
the
the
burden.
senators can show that, then definitely the Sandiganbayan will allow them to post bail.
But from what you know, do they have a case? Can they still get bail?
Are you asking for my personal opinion? I think at this time my
This guy-
opinion
you
doesn't even matter.
Okay,
Prosecutioner tong guy na to. I think yun
okay,
ang naman
Let
siya.
me just talk about suspension. The law allows for preventive suspension. So
Okay.
that the person could not use his office
Yeah.
to...
What about JPE, 90 years old, although quite strong, no? But 90 years old, people saying dapat bail yan or hospital arrest at the very least.
Hindi ko sigurado, kasi mas maalam sa akin si Atty. Kapunan, idol ko to eh. So ang alam ko, pagka ikaw may edad na, medyo hindi ka na nga nakukulong even if you are found guilty.
At the age of 70 nga, miskin na hindi pa tapos yung sentence mo
So,
eh.
hindi ko siya sigurado eh.
Rini-release ka na, no? But again, I think my take here is, I think the people in the palace should refrain from giving comments. Again, nag-comment na naman may comment na naman na si Presidente na I know the Senator when I was with him nag-magnifying glass na yan, hindi na makabasa and all that. I thought that may have been unnecessary because, again, you are spinning it towards, you're conditioning the minds na pag hindi inaresto or hindi dinala sa detention, okay lang because sabi naman, okay naman kay Presidente. No? So, these small remarks is in a
should be
sensitive
avoided, no?
situation.
So
He should
you're
be
saying it has a
advised.
tendency to influence how people
Yes,
will
he
move
should
and decide?
be the people around him because he's not a lawyer, no? But the people around
Should
him
be advised
should
properly.
advise him
Yeah,
that
okay.
he should be
Pero
more
for-
circumspect.
Alright.
With
We have a-
respect to JPE, I think, for humanitarian reason, they should take it easy on him. Besides, I'd like to have him around if the interest is to actually ferret out the truth.
Okay.
Mas maganda mabuhay pa siya.
We have a minute to go, so you have 20 seconds each for final words. Attorney Elaine Tan of
Yeah, the
Immigrations.
Bureau of Immigration is here to implement the orders of the court. So for this case, we implement the whole departure orders.
So hindi kayo malulusutan.
Hindi po.
Talaga. Okay. Kahit walang middle name. Okay. Attorney Ed?
Well, gusto ko lang magpasalamat sa taong bayan. Gusto ko lang sabihin na patuloy na mag-isip, magpahalaga, patuloy na magmahal sa bayan, and the rest definitely will follow. We should be vigilant.
Attorney Lorna Kapunan?
I tend to think that we should ponder on failure of government theory. Even if the justice system works, people are getting impatient. I mean, even if it happens, it will keep on happening unless we truly have a cleansing. And that cleansing can be done only the way we did it during the time of President Cory, when everybody's resignations, this president, because he is the constitutionally elected president, can ask for resignations, failure of government. Actually, it's a euphemism for emergency powers, no? Which I think this present incumbent is allergic to. That's why let's call it failure of government. And ask for everybody's resignations. After a transition of 6 months, call for clean elections. Then we get good people to run. We don't get recycled politicians. We don't get the 100 families who control political and economic power to again run and all that. We'll have good people
Okay.
like her.
Yeah. Attorney Elaine. Thank you very much to our
public
guests.
office.
Attorney Elaine Tan of the Bureau of Immigrations, Attorney Ed Chico, and Attorney Lorna Kapunan. Maraming salamat. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. See you again next Wednesday. Good night. Good evening. This is News.PH, but it's not politics as usual. I'm Pia Hontiveros. Tonight, it's Pork 360. Joining us tonight, Attorney Lorna Kapunan of the Kapunan, Garcia, Castillo Law Offices, and Attorney Edward Chico, professor at the De La Salle University College of Law, also a columnist of both Manila Standard and Manila Times, correct?
Yes.
Good evening, Attorney Kapunan, Attorney. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's begin with this first, no? Today, the Ombudsman asks the Sandiganbayan kung pwede bang i-amyenda natin yung information, the criminal information that was filed, to make Bong Revilla daw look not just like a beneficiary, but a mastermind. Can the Ombudsman do that? And can the Sandiganbayan allow that?
You first.
Well, of course, as a general rule, prior to arraignment, then of course the Ombudsman can do that. But after arraignment, definitely it will require now the court's approval. Unless, of course, you talk about amendment as to forms. But in this particular case, you are essentially changing the nature of the offense, because you would like now to make it appear that Bong Revilla is a mastermind and not just a passive beneficiary. Yun yung ang problema nga lang dyan, of course, it raises some suspicion on the part of the public. Why now? You know, after browsing through the voluminous records of the
because
case.
we're all under the impression that,
yes,
that it had
exactly.
been studied very well, lahat
The
ng
general
ebidensya,
rule
di
really
ba?
is the certain facts disclosed themselves in media and all that. We would learn together with the rest of the world.
Okay. But did you find it strange that the President would be willing to meet with Mrs. Napoles, or willing to meet with her or accept her surrender?
No.
No.
I think treat Mrs. Napoles as an ordinary citizen who is in danger of being killed. If anybody went, besides, this is a president who says, kayo ang boss ko. Diba? As a matter of fact, I would say now that we had also thought of surrendering to the Cardinal.
Cardinal Tagle.
To Cardinal Tagle, but it didn't happen. Principally because separation of church and state. There were concerns being expressed that he was probably not the appropriate person. But had he accepted, that would have been, in a sense, to me, that would have been a confession to end all confessions and have ended the case then.
You think she would have gone to confession?
Yes.
To the Cardinal, not to you. Although
To the
she should have
Cardinal,
gone to confession first to you as the lawyer. No? But, were you in the room when President Aquino and her spoke, or did they speak at all, or was it
was
in
very
front
public.
of everybody?
It was very
sa inyo,
public.
sa
Everybody
harap
was
ninyo
there. It
lahat.
just
Okay.
happened. It was really a confluence of events.
Okay.
And the stories that they said that she had a secret meeting in the morning with
That she
certain
had gone
people in
earlier,
Malacanang is
no.
absolutely false.
Yeah, oo.
Everything
But,
happened.
But when you went with her that night to Malacanang,
That's why I'm
Sarah,
saying that
yeah.
that day, it just happened that everybody was there because that was the day when the president's visit to China was canceled by the Chinese government. Apparently, he was going on it was not even an official visit. So the generals were there, the cabinet secretaries were there. And then I had a phone call to La Sierra. So it happened within 2-3 hours.
okay. And the President, her
The general rule is amendment is a matter of right. You can amend, provided that if the issues are joined. For instance, if it's a civil complaint, may answer na, you cannot amend the complaint. So you will have to go for leave of court. But
Leave
this
of court
meaning
meaning?
you have to ask permission of the court to amend your pleadings because the other side must be given opportunity to join issues with the amended complaint. But that becomes not merely a matter of procedure. In a criminal case, it affects substantive rights.
Right.
Because the right to be informed, the constitutional right, is one of the aspects of the rights of the accused is the right to be informed of the nature of the offense against you. Iba yung mastermind.
Oo. Kasi parang ang pagkakaiba nun yung beneficiary, tumanggap ka, ang mastermind, nangolekta ka.
That's correct. Iba yun. That's
Ibang-iba yun.
entirely, yes.
And you have to understand that Bong Revilla, of course, enjoys the presumption of innocence. So you have to understand that unless, of course, the court comes up with the verdict which becomes final and executory, Bong Revilla is entitled to such presumption of innocence. So I'm pretty sure, of course, his lawyers would vehemently oppose that.
So the problem with cases like this is it doesn't speak well. Right now there is so much public interest in the case, and when after months and months of study, then almost overnight you change your theory midstream, di ba? It doesn't speak well of the government and whoever is in charge of this case, no? Because it feeds precisely the theory that this is a sign of vindictiveness against the opposition, rather than focus on 3 individuals. What's happening to the others?
Exactly, that's the point. So there's this tendency for the public to think that this is politically motivated. Kaya nga I think
We'll get to that in a while.
that's why the Ombudsman.
Yeah, the 10 million reward. And the only person who could protect her, in our view, was the president then.
Okay. But at that point, was she already willing to tell the truth?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, she was.
Yes.
Okay. And then
Well,
at
that
what
was
point?
her representation.
Okay. And then at what point did you feel that she wasn't really keeping her part of the bargain after that surrender? Now?
Well, without betraying confidence, it was at some point during the trial of the serious illegal kidnapping case where there was a serious departure from what we had agreed on our trial technique, because we felt that the government was presenting on the motion for bail a full-blown litigation on the merits. So we said, if they're presenting 13 witnesses or 10 witnesses, why don't we present our whole story? And they had brought in other lawyers and who said, no, this will be short and we will present one. And I said, that's a sure formula for not being granted bail. And fast forward to now, it turns out we were correct.
Yeah, all right. Let's go back to that Malacanang, the night of the Malacanang surrender. Did you know about the letter that she had written to the president earlier?
No.
Oh, okay. But, so you didn't know whether she had given the president that letter, or, I'm sorry, that she had given the president a list that night. Did you know that she was going to give the president a list?
No. We
Did
didn't know a lot of things. In fact, I got a sense that she was on a need-to-know mode.
She was on a need-to-know mode.
She
Okay.
was with her lawyers, her advisors. She would tell us some things that we needed to know for the kidnapping, but that was on a need-to-know.
Ah, okay.
So,
I need to know basis for you. Na
for
parang
us.
I'll tell you this only because you need to know this, but I won't tell you everything else.
That's the sense that I got.
Ah, okay.
Looking back, that's the sense that I got, because we would be surprised with the rest of the world as the...
Yeah.
We will discuss that later. But the point is,
Yeah.
the ombudsman should actually be careful because it has gone through
Yeah.
the records
Should be careful, meaning
for a long
each
time.
and every little thing they do.
Yes, exactly.
is
Exactly.
under
Because
microscope
more
and
than a
all.
court proceeding, this is something which the public are very much interested in. So anything that they do definitely would have an impact insofar as the perception of the public is concerned.
Yeah, okay. Attorney Kapunan, I just want to get this out of the way first. Of course, you were a lawyer for Janet Lim Napoles for her illegal detention case
Yes.
only, and not for the pork barrel cases. And you wouldn't have taken this case, right?
The
pork
pork barrel case. In both instances, both in the serious illegal detention case and possibly then the pork barrel case, one of the conditions really, and I think any lawyer would require that of a client, is absolute disclosure.
For the client to tell the whole truth,
Yes,
right?
but
Is helping
at some point in time, we felt that was not happening. So, it is the type of case that I would have loved to accept.
Really? Why?
Because she whose name cannot be mentioned, client, had a unique position, or a unique, she had a unique position in history, where if she did what was expected, that would have been a tipping point.
What
for
was
a lot of
expected?
things.
For her to tell the whole truth?
Yes, which was why we surrendered her in Malacanang to Malacanang in the first place. Her desire to enlighten everybody as to what really transpired.
That is why you brought her to Malacanang, because yun ang sinabi niya, right?
No,
that she was willing to tell the truth
brought her
already.
to Malacanang because of a 10 million peso reward, which was literally a shoot-to-kill order. Anybody who is offered, her driver, her security guards could be tempted by a 10 million. And